Really, honestly, the worst tennis I played in the last, I don't know, month. And
What if one of the world's most dominant players didn't just bend the rules, but crossed a line so serious it sparked calls for an FBI investigation? That's the question electrifying the tennis world today, a question that exploded the moment a shaky courtside microphone picked up a whisper that may change someone's entire career. Because Aryna Sabalenka, the powerhouse who once terrified opponents before they even stepped on court, has walked straight into a scandal she never saw coming. A scandal built from screenshots, slowed down replays, and one match that spiraled into something far uglier than gamesmanship. To understand what happened, we need to go back to the moment everything snapped. It was supposed to be a straightforward match. Sabalenka, the season champion, versus Alexandra Eala, the fearless Filipino rising star who wasn't meant to be a threat this early. But from the second they stepped onto the court, the energy felt wrong. Sabalenka entered stiff-jawed, shoulders tight, moving like she was preparing for a battle no one else understood. Eala bounced in loose, smiling, full of the youthful confidence that makes veterans uncomfortable. The first set? Normal. Hard-hitting, tactical, intense. But in the second set, things started happening. The kind of things fans notice instantly, even if officials pretend not to. Sabalenka bounced the ball 15, 16, 17 times, took extra slow towel walks, made Eala wait. Then came the mistimed grunts. Not during her own shots, but timed exactly when Eala was about to strike the ball. Once, twice, 3 times. Eala finally raised her hand to the umpire, quiet, respectful, but firm enough to say, "This isn't right." And then the camera caught it. A smirk. Brief, sharp, and unmistakable. Within minutes, social media turned the moment into a wildfire. Words like dirty tactics, unsportsmanlike, and intentional disruption took over the headlines. Clips circulated from every angle. Fans slowed footage down frame by frame. Every little gesture became evidence. But the worst part hadn't even surfaced yet. Because inside one of those viral clips, buried beneath crowd noise and racket strings, was a faint audio fragment, a whisper. Some claimed it was nothing. Some insisted it was a racial slur and directed at Eala. Others compared it to previous tense moments Sabalenka had with Coco Gauff. Facts didn't matter anymore. The internet filled in the blanks. Hashtags went global, calls for investigation spread, and then the rumor hit, a formal complaint sent to the FBI. Whether real or exaggerated, the damage was done. Sabalenka went silent. No interviews, no explanations. Eala posted the 8 simple words: "Respect is part of the game. Remember that." And that was enough to tilt public sympathy firmly to her side. By the time the dust settled, it was clear. This wasn't just a tennis match. It was the start of a scandal that would follow Sabalenka for years, whether she was guilty or not. Before the scandal, before the whispers and the slowed-down replays, Aryna Sabalenka was a force of nature. For years, she didn't just play tennis. She consumed it. She smashed her way through tournaments with this kind of raw power that made even seasoned commentators fall silent. Opponents didn't fear her serve because it was strong. They feared it because it felt like being hit by a freight train coming off the baseline. But here's what most fans never talk about. Being on top changes you, and not always for the better. Sabalenka's rise came with a pressure so intense it slowly wrapped itself around her personality. What started as confidence hardened into something else. A constant vigilance. A paranoia forged from the fear of being overtaken. Every young player suddenly looked like a threat. Every upset felt like a warning. Every question in a press conference sounded like someone doubting her legacy. And then came Alexandra Eala. The teenager with the fearless stare, the one who didn't read the script that said she was supposed to learn and wait her turn. No. Eala stormed into the tour like she belonged from day one. She hit the ball clean, she played with joy, and she didn't bow to reputations. That confidence, that effortless belief in herself, it rattled players who'd spent a decade fighting for status. It rattled Sabalenka most of all. Their tension didn't explode overnight. It crept in quietly, hidden in the small moments fans often sense before commentators mention a single word. A handshake that ended too fast. A sideways glance in a hallway. A press conference answer that felt a bit too cold. Body language that made people wonder, is something going on here? None of it was enough to call a feud, but the energy between them, it wasn't normal. And as Eala continued rising, picking up wins, attracting global fan attention, earning respect from veterans, Sabalenka felt the ground shift, not dramatically, but subtly, dangerously. Because for an athlete built on intimidation, the moment someone stops fearing you, that's when panic begins. By the time they were drawn to face each other, the storm was already swirling beneath the surface. You could feel it in interviews, in their practice sessions, in the slight tightening of Sabalenka's jaw whenever Eala's name was mentioned. She wasn't afraid of Eala's tennis. She was afraid of what Eala represented, a future where Sabalenka was no longer the one opponents feared. And when pressure cracks a champion, it never cracks cleanly. It leaks. It distorts. It changes the way they compete. Some channel it into greatness. Others, knowingly or not, step into darker tactics. The stage was set. The rivalry wasn't built on hate or drama, but on fear, youth, ego, and the brutal truth of elite sport. Someone's rise always demands someone else's fall. And once they stepped onto that court, the one that would soon erupt into controversy, everything Sabalenka had been trying to hold together finally started to come apart. From the very first rally, something felt wrong. Not dramatic, not obvious. Just wrong in the quiet, uncomfortable way the tension creeps under a closed door. Sabalenka entered the court with her famous stone-faced intensity, jaw locked, eyes cold, shoulders squared like she was preparing for war rather than a tennis match. Eala walked in the opposite way. Light on her feet, loose shoulders, a smile that said she wasn't afraid of the moment, or the woman standing across the net. The first set was what everyone expected, power versus precision, experience versus hunger. But in the second set, the shift began. A subtle change at first, the kind that only seasoned fans pick up. Sabalenka stretched out her pre-serve routine, bouncing the ball longer than usual. 11 times. 13. 15. Then she slowly walked to her towel, wiping her face with a deliberateness that felt less like habit and more like strategy. Eala stood waiting, racket in hand, forced into a rhythm she didn't choose. At first, the crowd murmured. Then they noticed the stare, Sabalenka locking eyes with Eala just a second too long before serving. It felt calculated, a warning, a message. But things escalated when the grunts began. Not the usual explosive Sabalenka grunts timed with her shots. These came at the worst possible moments, right as Eala swung her racket, a half-second late, loud enough to disrupt timing, sharp enough to shake focus. It happened once, twice, then a third time, so perfectly mistimed that the crowd reacted before the umpire did. Eala finally raised her hand, calm, controlled, respectful. But the meaning was clear. Someone needs to look at this. The umpire gave a soft warning about pace of play, but the real explosion happened when the cameras caught Sabalenka's reaction. A tiny smirk, quick, subtle, but devastating in slow motion. That smirk became the match's most iconic image. Within minutes, social media clipped it, zoomed in, slowed it down, and spread it like wildfire. Words like dirty tactics, mind games, deliberate disruption started filling comment sections. Anger rose. Narratives formed. But the worst wasn't even out yet, because hidden inside a separate courtside microphone feed was something far uglier. A faint whisper made during a changeover. The audio quality was terrible, distorted by crowd noise, but thousands online insisted they heard a racial slur. Others said it was misheard. Some argued it was nothing at all. But online outrage doesn't wait for confirmation. Within hours, hashtags defending Eala trended worldwide. Old clips resurfaced of Sabalenka appearing cold toward Coco Gauff. Fans dug through footage looking for any sign of a pattern. Commentators began asking uncomfortable questions. Then came the rumor that transformed the scandal into a global spectacle. A fan had filed a formal complaint to the FBI, claiming Sabalenka's alleged slur violated federal hate speech laws. Whether the FBI ever touched the case didn't matter. The idea of federal involvement was enough to turn the match into a cultural flashpoint. Meanwhile, Eala handled it flawlessly. No drama, no accusations. Just 8 simple words posted online. Respect is part of the game. Remember that. Those 8 words destroyed Sabalenka's silence. They made her look defensive, guilty even, without saying anything at all. For days, tennis wasn't about rankings or results. It was about that match, that audio, that smirk. And whether a champion had crossed a line so serious it could redefine her entire legacy. In the weeks that followed, the scandal refused to die. Every sports program, every podcast, every late-night debate circled back to the same moment. Those delayed serves, the mistimed grunts, the smirk, and the whisper that may or may not have meant exactly what people insisted it did. Tennis authorities stepped in, slowly, cautiously, as if afraid to anger of either side. The WTA released a vague statement about reviewing footage and maintaining sportsmanship standards, but they danced around the heart of the controversy. No one mentioned the audio. No one said the word racism. No one dared to confirm or deny the rumors of an FBI complaint circulating online. And Sabalenka? She went silent. Completely silent. No press conferences, no clarifications, no explanations beyond a sterile, lawyer-polished comment that said everything and absolutely nothing at the same time. It was a strategy meant to protect her. But it made her look like someone with something to hide. Because when accusations at the serious surface, silence doesn't reassure people, it fuels them. Meanwhile, Alexandra Eala's reputation soared. Her composure during the match, her calm gesture to the umpire, her dignified 8-word post, all of it turned her into a symbol. Not just for Filipino fans, not just for young athletes, but for anyone who believed in fairness, respect, and rising above hostility. She didn't attack. She didn't lash out. She didn't name names. And somehow that restraint became louder than any accusation she could have made. The contrast was brutal, one player silent and defensive, the other poised, principled, and admired. But the aftermath didn't stop on social media. Umpires, aware of how closely the world was watching, began tightening their enforcement during Sabalenka's future matches. Time violations were called more quickly. Excessive pauses were punished. Even harmless habits faced extra scrutiny. Whether this was bias or simply caution didn't matter. The effect was the same. Sabalenka stepped onto the court no longer as a champion, but as someone under surveillance. She played differently, too. Gone was the swagger, the intimidating walk, the ferocity that once defined her presence. Instead, she became measured, controlled, almost overly careful, as if aware that every gesture might be clipped, slowed down, and judged by millions. And even though no formal charges were brought, even though the FBI never announced involvement, even though tennis authorities quietly closed the case, the damage had already been done. Reputations don't heal just because paperwork says they're clean. Not in the online era, not when a single whisper can echo louder than any official statement. Ella, on the other hand, emerged stronger, more respected, more visible. Her calmness under fire became part of her identity, a story young players would study and fans would remember long after rankings changed. But beneath the drama and the noise lies a deeper, more uncomfortable truth about modern sport. We no longer judge athletes solely by how they play, but by how they behave, how they're perceived, and how the public chooses to interpret them. Sometimes fairly, sometimes not. And now, long after the dust has settled, tennis fans everywhere are left with one difficult question. Did we witness a moment of genuine misconduct? Or a brutal example of how quickly public opinion can destroy someone before the facts are clear? It's a question with no simple answer. And perhaps that's what makes this story linger. If you follow this far, I want to hear your perspective. Do you believe Sabalenka crossed the line? Or was she swallowed by a narrative she couldn't control? Leave your thoughts in the comments. If this deep breakdown gave you something to think about, like the video, subscribe for more powerful sports stories, and share this with someone who loves tennis as much as you do. Because this scandal isn't just about one match. It's about the future of fairness, respect, and accountability in sport.